Hey, what's up guys? Today is Sunday, July 12th. It's 11:15 a.m. and I'm currently traveling south on Yonge Street, just north of the city of Toronto. This is the region of York. On the right is the city of Vaughan. And on my left is the city of Markham. This is Steeles Avenue we're approaching, which is the border between Toronto and the York region. So once I cross through south to the other side of this intersection, we'll be in North York, which is the northern region of the city of Toronto. The plan for this ride is to head south through North York and the uptown area, through Midtown and downtown, all the way down to Lake Ontario. This ride should be something in the neighborhood of 18 kilometers or so. And just to the right there is Centre Point Mall, formerly the home of one of Toronto's or Canada's short-lived Target stores. And as the sign says, welcome to Toronto. The next major intersection, which is quite a few blocks to the south here, will be Finch Avenue, where the northern terminus of the Yonge Street part of the Line 1 subway is, and then we will be in the neighborhood known as Willowdale. I did a walk through there about, I think, last Tuesday. So if you want to know more about that area, you can check that video out. This area is not particularly known for its good drivers. I have two main concerns with this ride. The first one being, I'm not sure if my battery will last all the way down to the lake. So if it does cut out, I apologize, but I will swap it out on the spot. I did a ride from Finch, which is straight ahead down to the lake last year, and I think it took around 56 minutes. And this battery lasts about an hour, so we'll definitely be cutting it close. My other concern is as we get to York Mills in the Hogs Hollow area, there's a very large and quite steep hill I'm going to have to climb. And the last time I did it, it just about damn near killed me. And being on a single speed certainly doesn't help. So this area is kind of a mishmash of suburban and urban type developments. There's high-rises, low-rises, strip malls that face the street, other ones that have that suburban-style parking lot in front of it. Just here on the left used to be a large plaza with one of the few remaining full-size bowling alleys in the city of Toronto, a Bowlerama. I used to go there quite often, but now it's just a hole in the ground. There was also a Price Chopper, or one of those discount supermarkets, and a Canada Computers, another place I went to every now and then. It doesn't really start to feel urban until you get to Finch, where the subway line starts. To the right are some hydro fields, which have a pretty nice bike trail through it. I used to work in this area in that building just here on the right, that large pink/purple looking thing. But that was back over a decade ago, so a lot of the restaurants and places I used to frequent have since changed. There are plans to eventually build the subway line north out of Toronto and into York. But there's some other more pressing projects that need to be taken care of instead before they can get around to that, such as building the relief line. So this is Finch Avenue. We've got 4 seconds to make this light. I do not know why this car, she just gave me a dead stare straight ahead. And there's a cop on the other side of the intersection. He's not going to do anything. Why drivers insist on entering intersections that aren't fully clear is beyond me. They don't get to where they're going any faster. All they do is create a dangerous situation and annoy the crap out of everybody. So you may have noticed this area has a fairly large Asian presence. There's a lot of Korean, Japanese, Taiwanese restaurants and cafes. Chinese too. Starting to sound like a broken record every time I pass through here though. This part of Yonge Street in particular, I really think is much too wide. It really ought to be reduced to 2 lanes, or as someone pointed out in the comments of my last video through here, turn it into a boulevard. It's really just unnecessarily wide, and it takes away from that cohesive neighborhood feel. It feels more like a highway cutting through it. I'm going to take the lane here. If there isn't room to stay safely off to the side, just take the whole lane. You're allowed to do that, and it's the safe thing to do. So we're approaching the North York Center area, the former City Hall of North York. This used to be its own city until it amalgamated with the rest of Toronto back in '98. So on the left coming up is Empress Walk, which is a large shopping center with condos on top. There's a movie theater, a Loblaw supermarket, an LCBO, a Best Buy, a Wendy's, a Dollarama. You could conceivably live your whole life in there and never have to leave if you were introverted enough, I guess. And on the right is Mallasman Square, just a public park. There's a concert stage and an outdoor skating rink in the winter in front. about 22, 23 degrees right now. There's a nice breeze. We've had a bit of a heat wave lately. I wouldn't really call it that, although that's what the media was reporting it as. There's a lot of days in the low 30s, late 20s. But it seems as if it's not that humid this year. So the hotter days are much easier to tolerate, I'm finding. Usually you'd go outside in the summer on a hot day in the 30s for 5 minutes, come home and you'd need to take a shower, but that's not been the case this year. So the next major intersection will be at Sheppard Avenue. It'll be the third subway station we've passed. That's the Sheppard Center just down there on the left, and the Hallmark Center behind it. It can get a little dicey just south of Sheppard Avenue up here. As cars to the right will want to be merging onto Highway 401. So there's a big line at McDonald's. So we're going to have to be careful there. And trust that this cop isn't going to cut us off. It's probably a safe bet on that one. Looks like the right lane will be ending up ahead. Just to the left is the Enterprise rent-a-car I now have to use, as the Yonge and Eglinton location has closed. We're not sure if it's temporary or permanent yet, but travel and car rental business is way down since this virus has struck us. I got rid of my car a long time ago, but through work, I have a pretty good discount. It works out to being over 50% off the regular rate, so it's quite convenient for me to just rent a car whenever I need it. And my credit card picks up the physical damage insurance. So straight ahead, if we keep to the right, we'll find ourselves on the 401. You can't see, but I was checking over my shoulder there just to make sure that we were clear. This is the 401 we're passing under. North America's busiest highway. And I'm not sure if the camera can pick this up, but well off into the distance is the CN Tower. We've got a nice downhill run here. I'm on a single speed, so as fast as I pedal, I can't catch up to the chain, so I'm just gonna coast. I was keeping to the left of the lane as I thought it was going to turn into a right turn only at that last intersection, but it turns out this is it. So, not the best riding on my part there. To the right here is Wilson Avenue, to the left is York Mills. That's York Mills Station on the right. And the neighborhood just up here on the left is known as Hogs Hollow. If you've seen my videos through Rosedale and Forest Hill, and you like that, you'd probably want to check out this area too. Maybe I'll come down there and do a video. There's a lot of very large, expensive homes. It's quite an exclusive part of the city. And straight ahead is that damn hill I was talking about. It's not uncommon to see cyclists walking their bikes up this. You'll even see the more serious looking cyclists decked out in their gear, pushing a road bike up this hill every now and then. I'm just gonna grit my, oh great, we're gonna lose our momentum. Just an extra kick in the teeth before we tackle this thing. There's a guy slowly going up it on the sidewalk up there on the left. All right, here we go. At some point, gravity is going to kick in, and I'm not going to be able to pedal so gingerly, which is just starting to happen. This is good. I'm trying not to stand up, but I think I'm at the point where I have to. Whew. The car is just kind of slowly following me. I could have used a red light right there. Whew. So this is the Yonge and Lawrence neighborhood. Not sure if you classify this as Midtown or not. Just to the south here will be Lawrence Station. And then past there will be the Yonge and Eglinton neighborhood where I live. So I've already rode my bike from there north to where I started. Turned around, pressed record, and started heading south. This neighborhood is similar to the retail area along Avenue Road, just to the west of here. And the retail stretches along Mount Pleasant and Bayview, which are just to the southeast. It's got a similar kind of feeling to it. The big difference being there's a subway line serving this community. So this is Lawrence Avenue. If you turn left here, it'll take you towards the bridle path, which is where all the giant mansions are. That's Lawrence Park on the left. There's a ravine down in there. And if you're riding this way, but you don't feel like tackling Yonge Street, or maybe you just want something a bit quieter, one block to our west is Duplex Avenue, which runs even north of Lawrence, all the way down to Chaplin Crescent, which is where Davisville Station is. So you have a pretty nice parallel alternative to Yonge Street in this part. And it's been designated a quiet street, so there's not supposed to be vehicles driving through there. It should be local traffic only, but of course, nobody really seems to follow that. It's still a lot quieter, and I'm willing to bet safer than Yonge Street, if that's a concern. But what you shouldn't do is ride on the sidewalk. If you're over 14, I can make this. Yeah, that was 50-50 if I'm in the wrong there. But like I've said in other videos, it's actually against the law to ride your bike on the sidewalk if you're an adult. It's also inconsiderate, dangerous, and a whole host of other adjectives I probably can't say. Perhaps in more suburban, less urban areas that aren't designed to be cyclist friendly, where the roads feel like freeways and there's nobody ever on the sidewalks anyway, it's okay there. I'm not really one to speak about that. But here in the city of Toronto, do not do it. Exceptions being if you're a toddler, or if you're under 14, really, you're legally in the right. And I think we can all tolerate the odd elderly senior riding their bike on the sidewalk gingerly. That's really not what the law is designed to prevent. But someone like me barreling down the sidewalk, where you've got parents and their baby strollers, small children, riding up, I saw an elderly lady with a walker walking her dog, which is amazing. But there was some moron riding his bike, and she actually had to move out of the way to avoid him. Which of course is not something she should ever have to deal with on the sidewalk. That's kind of a safe haven for everybody, away from moving vehicles and bicycles. So this is my neighborhood. That's the Enterprise Rent-A-Car on the right. That is hopefully going to reopen. It's quite convenient for me. Most of these restaurants don't have patio spaces, so they're relying primarily on takeout and third-party delivery services. I can't imagine with their rents being what they are that any of them are turning a profit. It's probably just a matter of taking the smallest loss that they can bear. Hopefully stage 3 will kick in at the end of the month. I'd imagine that face coverings will be mandatory and capacity will be reduced, but that's certainly better than what we have now. So this disaster zone of construction straight ahead is the intersection of Yonge and Eglinton, where they're building the Eglinton Crosstown, which is a partially below ground LRT. About 13 of the 25 stations, I think, will be underground. If you've seen the Toronto streetcars roaming around downtown, that's what these are going to look like, just extended versions of that. So a combination of 9 years of this new line being constructed and the never-ending condo construction in the area has led a lot of people to think that this is no longer such a desirable neighborhood. It used to be known as young and eligible, but the more people I talk to these days, the more they seem frustrated with this area and associating it with the never-ending construction. This intersection in particular has just been a perpetual disaster, and there's been some incredibly unsafe configurations of it for pedestrians trying to cross. It's almost mind-blowing that somebody approved that. It was so bad, probably about 6-7 months ago, that they had to install crossing guards at every corner because there are so many people just flowing into the intersection, and it's pretty confusing for drivers. So hopefully whoever designed that isn't allowed anywhere near a public works project ever again. On the left is the Art Shop condos, formerly where the Art Shop furniture store was. The Art Shop now has completely closed down. What's this car doing? What are you doing? I love it when you look at a driver, when you pass by and they're just giving a blank stare straight out their windshield as if to say, yeah, I know. I'm not going to acknowledge it. If you're going to do that, at least pull over to the curb. He did have his four-ways on, but still, hanging out in the middle of a lane, it's such a jackass thing to do. So this is Yonge and Davisville. I quite like this neighborhood. It's very much like Yonge and Eglinton, but more laid back. Less chain stores and restaurants. It too has seen a lot of condo development, but like this building on the left, I find they're much more tastefully done around here. And just straight ahead is Davisville subway station. To the left is Davisville Avenue. There's a very large amount of rental buildings in that area that are somewhat reasonably well priced. So whenever I hear people complain about rental costs in the city, I always point out that this is a fantastic neighborhood with the subway. It's not super expensive. And then people will counter saying things like they don't want to do their laundry in the basement, they want to rent a condo. Well, if you think that's worth an extra $600 or $700 a month, be my guest. In the rental buildings, you often have better access to your property management or superintendent if anything goes wrong. And you typically get a much bigger floor space than a newer condo. So if you're only renting, I'd strongly look at some of the better rental buildings over a condo. You're also often protected from being evicted, whereas a condo, the landlord just has to say a family member's moving in, which I'm sure will happen a lot when all these Airbnb condos turn back into Airbnbs that are going up for rent now. All these people getting cheap one-year leases on their rent will probably start to get evicted in a year from now when the economy turns back. So on the right is the subway rail yards. Davisville is where the TTC's headquarters are, and on the left is Mount Pleasant Cemetery. Which I believe is now open to the public. It's a very large, nice space, and you have the K. Gardner Beltline Trail that runs along the north part of Mount Pleasant. And you can take that over into the Don Valley. This neighborhood is known as Deer Park. It's sort of wedged in between an affluent neighborhood known as Moore Park, which is to the east of here, and another really affluent neighborhood to the west of here known as Forest Hill. So this intersection coming up is Yonge and St. Clair, which would be the heart of this neighborhood. There's a subway station on line 1 and a streetcar which runs east and west. This is the terminal station for the streetcar. But you can take it out west to the Junction neighborhood, just past the stockyards.
Nice dog.
So this stretch has been under construction for quite a while, so it's nice to see that it's recently reopened with some fresh pavement. It's a bit lower density in this part of Yonge Street versus the Yonge and Eglinton area. There's a lot less high-rises on either side of Yonge Street. We'll be coming up to Summerhill subway station on the left, as well as the Summerhill LCBO station, or LCBO liquor store, which occupies a former rail station. And that car passed me well too close. Those really tall towers straight ahead are at Yonge and Bloor. That's where we'll be entering downtown, where all the fun begins on Yonge Street. I seem to be catching every red light, which isn't the best when you're on a bit of a downhill run. So just to the left on the street is the subway station. And that building with the clock tower is the LCBO. I think you could classify that as the flagship LCBO. They have a very extensive collection of pretty much everything alcohol related. Coming up here on the right is McPherson Avenue, which I would probably put on my top 5 residential streets in Toronto for being nice. Chestnut Park would be on there. Palmerston through Little Italy would be on there. And just up here on the left is Rosedale Station and the Rosedale neighborhood, where I started my bike ride last Thursday or Friday. There's a car literally on my back wheel here. So we'll have to be very careful to see how he comes off the line. Look at that, way too close. He heard me and he said something. There's a YouTube channel by a gentleman called Cycling Mikey, who rides around with a GoPro mounted on his helmet camera in the UK. And he often catches people texting or using their phones while they drive. He gets their license plate number, submits it to the authorities, and then he follows up later on in the videos and shows you the amount of convictions that have resulted from those videos. and the total amount of fines paid. It's really neat because he's not breaking any laws himself. He's just riding his bike around, and when he notices it, he reports it. So if that sounds like something you might like to watch, just look up Cyclin' Mikey. His videos are quite entertaining. And they're a lot shorter than the kind of videos I do. There's another channel based in Toronto that does videos that are better suited to those with short attention spans. You could look up Cycle YYZ or Z. There's a lot of great safety tips and information within his videos as well, and they're all quite entertaining. Okay. So we are approaching the intersection of Yonge and Bloor. It's the reference library I just went by on the left. So on the right is the Yorkville neighborhood. On the left is Bloor Station, which is where you can transfer from line 1 to line 2 or vice versa. There's not a lot of room up ahead, so I'm just going to hang back. This is one of the most well-known intersections in Toronto. I've started a number of videos from here. It is Sunday, so I would not expect the Chick-fil-A to be open on the left here. There's often a very long lineup. And this road is really bad. There's a Lamborghini that looks to be illegally parked on the left there. There's a lot of Korean and Japanese restaurants in this part of Yonge and Bloor. I've done a narrated walk down this way where I talk about this area a bit more in detail than I can afford to on the bicycle, so feel free to look that one up if you're interested. So it's 11:59. I think I'll be able to make it down to the lake before this battery dies. The fact that it's not super hot is helping, as the batteries on these action cameras really don't like heat. So this is the intersection of Yonge and Wellesley I'm approaching. Just to the left is Wellesley subway station, and that'll take you to the Church and Wellesley neighborhood. And if you keep going straight, it'll take you through Cabbagetown. And to the right, it'll take you over to Queen's Park. That guy just had to pass, didn't he? So coming up is the intersection of Yonge and Carlton on the left and Yonge and College on the right. And College Park is just here on the right, which used to house a department store. Now it's home to a Winners and a number of other retailers. And just to the left is Maple Leaf Gardens. I'm not going to be able to get a view of it, but that's where the Toronto Maple Leafs used to call home. It's since been turned into a supermarket and University Athletic Center. So there's still an ice rink there. Just up here on the right is Aura, which is one of the tallest residential buildings in the country. It might have been the tallest at one point, and you'll see the sign says the shops at Aura. If you ever want to know what a ghost mall looks like, you can head down there. It's a failed shopping mall. That guy doesn't look too safe. Looked like he had some Sony noise canceling headphones on as well, which is not the best choice for someone riding anywhere, let alone a street like this. Although it is a lot less busy than it would normally be. There's often a lot of preachers and buskers at this intersection coming up. This is Yonge and Dundas. So on the left, Dundas Square. On the right, the Eaton Center. The Eaton Center is open, as we are on stage 2 of the reopening, so most of the stores I believe now are open. The food court is open, but you can't eat there, it's takeout only. There's a guy strolling barefoot into the intersection. If people watching is your thing, this is probably the most interesting place to do it in the city of Toronto. At least in terms of the variety of people you'll see. So this is the Eaton Center on the right. And there's an e-bike just rolling around me. And just south of the Eaton Center is the financial district. I'm not an e-bike hater, but something about that just seems wrong. No helmet, it's motorized, no insurance, no licensing requirements. And is she checking out her phone? She was. If you're, that I believe should be a very severe fine for anyone on the road, whether you're driving a car or an e-bike or a bicycle. You will see a lot of cyclists just have their phone right here as sort of a heads-up display. That's fine, that's really no different than what you'd have on the dashboard of a car. But you shouldn't be reading your messages while you're operating your bike or engaging in social media or anything like that. So this is Adelaide Street, and then we'll be at King Street. So coming up here is Front Street. On the right, we have the Hockey Hall of Fame. And if you make a right, that'll take you past Union Station towards the CN Tower. And to the left would be the St. Lawrence neighborhood. Those iced coffees look good. So these are the railroad tracks I'm passing under right now. And straight ahead is the Gardner Expressway, which we'll be heading under. This is Lakeshore Boulevard, which should be closed to traffic to both the west and east of here as part of the active TO program. Or at least the eastbound lanes are closed to traffic. I've already done videos through both stretches of that, showing what that's like. So this is Harbor Street, and then the next one is Queens Quay. Yonge Street is the main east-west divide in the city, so most streets to our left would be named east and to the right would be west. For instance, straight ahead to the left is Queens Quay East and on the right is Queens Quay West. As long as my battery doesn't conk out in the next minute or so, looks like I'll be successful in recording this in one shot. And we're so close. I imagine with yesterday being rainy and overcast all day, a lot of the people that stayed in will be coming out today and coming down to this area. It's usually quite busy on nicer days. And here we go, Lake Ontario. Maybe I'll just going to find a spot at the end of this park here, or whatever you call it. Someone almost wiped out. Got a snack and a cold drink in my bag. So maybe I'll be able to find a bench.
Past the yellow, what do you see?
All right, there we go. I hope you enjoyed this ride all the way across the city of Toronto from the north to the south down Yonge Street. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.